You guys got to produce. If they don't produce, it's going to be short leash.
I can't believe they signed Josh Jacobs.
Jordan Morgan.
Xavier McKinney is expected to sign with the Green Bay Packers.
Man, does everyone in that building think Xavier McKinney is him?
You can't catch me, boy. Touchdown, Green Bay.
For the end zone, caught, touchdown! It's Christian Watson with the score.
Jordan Love to Dontavian Wicks for the score.
I want to vomit every time I hear number one receiver.
The Green Bay Packers have had an easier time replacing Aaron Rodgers than they have replacing Mason Crosby.
How do these guys handle adversity in an NFL season again when it hits?
Give it to the Green Bay Packers.
I've said repeatedly that I think they're 11-6, 12-5 team.
I think we're winning 12 games this year.
Next year, I fully intend on picking them to win it all. This year, no.
He's caught! What a catch! Wicks! Touchdown!
Who has it better chasing a championship than this Green Bay Packers organization?
Pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm certainly excited.
Now I'm ready to get to work and chase the ultimate goal, winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, man. I don't know how that doesn't get you fired up. It's game day for the Green Bay Packers here on your Friday, September 6th, 2024. We have made it. Green Bay Packers, Philadelphia Eagles, the first ever game in Sao Paulo, Brazil tonight on Peacock. The Eagles currently listed as 2.5-point favorites. But who gives a damn? Who gives a damn about the spread? Who gives a damn about the over-under? Football is back. The Green Bay Packers are back. You heard it at the beginning, Jair Alexander. The pack is back. Yeah, baby. Come on. Come on. We've waited all off season for. Packers, Eagles tonight. So we are recording Mr. Relevant. If you're watching live, ESPN Madison on YouTube and Facebook, 8 a.m. this Friday morning, or if you're watching on the rewatch, 12:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN Milwaukee. We've spent a lot of time, waiting to get here. Discussing the kicker. Discussing the backup quarterback. Discussing the new defensive coordinator. And I'm happy to report none of it matters anymore. None of it matters anymore. Until it does. But the thing we've been waiting to see, we're going to see tonight. And that is the Packers offense. That is the Packers' new defense with Jeff Hafley. That is Rashawn Gary and Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. And all the young receivers. We finally get to see what it looks like in 2024, and that begins tonight. Week 1 matchup with the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll dive a ton into it coming up. But the NFL season underway with a bang. Chiefs beat the Ravens last night 27-20 as they look for the three-peat. And really, it wasn't even 27-20. It was just about 26-27 with the 2-point conversion to win the game. But Isaiah Likely's toe was at the outside of the back of the end zone. The score at the end of regulation didn't count, and the Chiefs survive and advance to 1-0 on the season, winning over the Baltimore Ravens. Same score differential as the AFC Championship game from a year ago, 7 points. I said it yesterday with Joshy. I don't know if I could have thought up a better game to kick off the NFL season than Chiefs-Ravens. There is so much juice to that. I don't know if I want to call it rivalry, but to that game, there is so much juice to it, especially coming off of what was an MVP season for Lamar Jackson, a Super Bowl winning season for Patrick Mahomes, a rematch of the AFC Championship game, which was only decided by a touchdown at Baltimore just about 8 months ago. So I don't know that there was a better way to kick off the season, and that game freaking delivered, right? Trading blows in the first quarter, a Derrick Henry touchdown, a Xavier Worthy rushing touchdown, showing off that speed, which, by the way, ridiculous. I don't know why we allowed the Kansas City Chiefs to get the fastest man in NFL Combine history. Like, that's almost unfair for a team that has won back-to-back Super Bowls to hang on to Xavier Worthy. They are going to be a really fun offense, and Worthy, situations matter so much in the NFL. Worthy finding himself in a really good one. I think that will ultimately lead to a nice, at least beginning of his NFL career for him. So you have the offense is trading blows early, and then the defenses step up. You have a couple of turnovers, you have a couple of 3-and-outs. And then Mahomes continues to work in the second half. Then all of a sudden, Lamar Jackson starts working in the second half. And Isaiah Likely was terrific, much better than the guy who technically starts in front of him, Mark Andrews. I mean, Isaiah Likely was amazing for Baltimore. So that game completely delivered. That game over-delivered. And it was just a cruel, and I mean this in the best way, reminder, the NFL season is fully here. This is what you have to look forward to for the next 5 months is slobber knockers back and forth, trading blows, and Patrick Mahomes coming out on top. That's just what you got to get used to. I asked Jason Wilde on Weekly Wilde yesterday, episode 2. If you missed it, you can find it in the Mr. Irrelevant podcast feed or on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee. I asked Jason Wilde, do you like Kansas City or the field this year? Kansas City looking to become the first team in the Super Bowl era to win back-to-back-to-back, three-peat Super Bowl championships. It has not been done in the NFL since the Packers did it back in 1967, NFL championship, and then the first 2 Super Bowls. The team hasn't won 3 in a row in that long. And after last night, I have a hard time going, yeah, it's going to be easy to pick the field. It's hard for me to pick against Patrick Mahomes. And looking at how they played last night, no week 1 rust. The way they have implemented a kind of a new era of Chiefs offense, right? Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco, and now the aforementioned Xavier Worthy and of course Travis Kelce. Like, this team seemingly is going to be really good in 2024, and I'm sure they'll stumble at some point. But I have a really hard time picking against them. But opening night completely delivers. Want to go to producer Tiny Hands Hunter Vaughn, who's back in the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. Hunter, I need to confirm you stayed awake for the entirety of this game because it was a late start due to the inclement weather, and it ended up going pretty late, past your bedtime. Did you make it to the end of the game last night between Kansas City and Baltimore?
Well, luckily, the Prep Mania game, Wanakee at Monona Grove, took forever in the second half. We had like an hour and a half second half. So I was able to listen to Kevin Harlan on the call for Westwood 1. I got the Justin Tucker field goal at the end, and then the Chiefs drive, and I got home and watched Baltimore drive down the field. And my wife, we've talked about it, huge Travis Kelce fan now, so she was freaking out. And I'm like, yeah, this is why football's awesome. Like, you get to experience it. I'm like, this is the first game of the year, and you're freaking out over it. Like, this is why it's the best. This is why the NFL is the best league out there. It was so much fun, and yep, I stayed up for it, even though I knew we had an early morning today, and totally worth it. I really hope that as a neutral fan, because I'm kind of want both teams to tie tonight. Like, I hate the Eagles and I don't like the Packers. Like, I'm like, I really hope that this game can live up to the first game. I know that it won't, but if it even gets close and it's a 1-possession game, oh man, the NFL ratings are going to be incredible this year if you get the first 2 national games going down to the wire.
Yeah, and we could transition to tonight because I believe tonight will be similar to last night. I don't know that it will be as high scoring as 27-20, but I think this will be a back and forth game. I think it's a really good test for both of these teams in week 1, and I don't think that is lost on either of these teams, despite, some of the issues and troubles and concerns people are having with playing the game in Brazil. I think both of these teams understand the stakes of tonight's game. This is, as Hunter just pointed out, this is a national spotlight game on a Friday night when the thirst for football is more than it typically is, because we've only had one game, and prior to yesterday, you had 0, right? I mean, yesterday was game 1. I always forget the numbers. 272 or 265. It's somewhere in that range. The Packers and Eagles are game 2. They're the first game of NFC teams. And they are two teams who kind of had opposite years last year. Right? When you think about the Packers, and we do this thing where we break it into halves, right? The first half of the season, they were no good, 2-5. Despite winning in week 1 over the Bears, they then go 1-5 over their next 6. They get down to 2-5, and they find a way to kind of scratch and claw their way back in the second half of the season with big wins, right? I mean, beating Detroit on the road, beating Kansas City on a Sunday night football game, rattling off 3 straight wins at the end of the season to get into the postseason, beating Dallas on the road in the wild card round, and playing really well against San Francisco in the divisional round. Green Bay completely turned their season around last year. And as for Philadelphia, they did the exact opposite. They started the season 10-1. They had the best record in the NFL. It seemed like they were a shoo-in for not only the NFC East champion, but the number 1 seed in the NFC. And they go ahead and drop, I think it was 5 of their last 6, and lose the division. So they end up losing the division title to Dallas, who we know how their season ended up. And Philadelphia gets bounced in the first round of the playoffs. Like it was the complete opposite of the Packers season. But the thing both of these teams have in common is their season ended in disappointment. The Packers lost a game they probably shouldn't have to the San Francisco 49ers. Philadelphia was crap down the stretch and got bounced in the first round after going to the Super Bowl the year prior. So not only are these young and upcoming, exciting, explosive teams, these are teams with chips on their shoulder. These are teams with something to prove in 2024 in the NFC. And I think that is why Hunter and I, for the last several months since this game was announced and since the schedule came out, have emphasized the importance of this week 1 matchup. Because as much as it is just one of the 17, it also will be one of those games where in 15, 16 weeks, when we're looking at playoff seeding and playoff positioning, and we're trying to figure out what teams have to do to pass the other team or to put themselves in the best position in the postseason, I think we're going to look back at this one and go, man, if the Eagles would have beaten the Packers in week 1, this looks a little bit different. Or if the Packers would have beaten the Eagles in week 1, this looks a little bit different. So I think that's why the importance of this game has been emphasized by the two of us so much, Hunter, is because it really does matter. These are two teams that think they are Super Bowl good. These are two teams that think they are good enough to beat the 49ers, dethrone the 49ers, and eventually dethrone the Chiefs. The expectations are high in Philly. They are high in Wisconsin for the Green Bay Packers. And I think that's what makes this game so appealing, so appetizing, and so exciting. Despite you saying you don't think it will deliver to the level that Kansas City and Baltimore did last night, I think it certainly could. And this is a sexy, sexy matchup, and props to the schedule makers for doing what they did here in week 1.
Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, I have a feeling that this is going to be a close game through the first 3 quarters, and then one of these two teams is going to pull away. Like, that's just the sense I get from the way that these teams are built with the running backs that they have. Like, somebody's just going to end up pulling away late in the game, maybe force a turnover that they get an easy touchdown off of, and suddenly it's a 2-score game, and that's just a really hard thing late in the game to try and come back from. So that's why I don't think it'll fully deliver to what we saw last night, going down to literally the last play. And, like, this is such an important game that I was literally going to ask you, what percentage would you give the likelihood that the first 2 games of the NFL season, we've just seen the preview for the AFC and NFC championship games to finish off the season?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Hunter. I think there is a high possibility that these are the preview of the AFC and NFC championship games. But I don't want to undermine other teams that are vying for that spot. Right, I think specifically in both conferences, you probably have 2 or 3 other teams in each conference that could go, hey, we belong there. Right, specifically in the NFC, I'm thinking about San Francisco and Detroit, who played in that game a year ago. As for the AFC, it's hard for me to forget about Buffalo It's hard for me to forget about Cincinnati. I still think Houston has a chance to get there this year. So there are clearly other teams that are going to be jockeying for a spot in that championship game. But would I be shocked if in, what's the math on that, 4 months, these are the AFC and NFC championship games? No, I wouldn't be shocked. I think these are 4 of the top 8 best teams, 9 best teams in the NFL. So the schedule makers crush this. And we talked about it a bit yesterday with Joshy Hunter, but you weren't on with us yesterday. What the schedule makers were able to do this week is insane. And your team is part of that. Browns Cowboys is America's game of the week on Fox this week. That is a really intriguing game for 2 of the NFL's best defenses from a year ago. Sunday night is the Rams and the Lions, 2 teams that I think will be playoff teams in the NFC. Monday night is an interesting one. That's San Francisco and the New York Jets. Aaron Rodgers returns to Monday Night Football week 1 after we know what happened to him in week 1 on Monday Night Football a year ago. So there are a bunch of intriguing matchups here to kick off the NFL season in week 1. And tonight is one of them. But I do want to touch briefly on some of the Brazil ins and outs because I'm fascinated by them before we really get into a week 1 preview for the Packers and the Eagles. And then we'll dive into some of our week 1 entries and picks over on the Underdog app. And we will pick through those with you specifically on tonight's game. So something that was read is the Packers are going to have to travel in about an hour and a half or 2 hours because of heavy traffic to Corinthians Stadium out there in Sao Paulo, Brazil, which is kind of just another logistical nightmare. This game has come down to, at least from the outside perspective, because when you see the boots on the ground, when you see the ginormous fan base that the Packers have and the Eagles have in Brazil, it's really cool to see those fans get the opportunity, right? Like I've seen some footage of fans at the airport greeting each of their teams. And, I saw the press conferences that the Packers were doing in Brazil yesterday. It's a really cool opportunity for Brazilians to be this up close and personal to the NFL. And I know there's such a huge football fan base in Brazil, so I don't want to undermine that. But I think from, Eagles players going on podcasts and radio shows and talking about their nervousness and how they were told they can't leave their hotel room and how they can't really do a ton outside of go there, it's a business trip, play football, leave. And so I get that, right? Because when you think back to a few years ago, Matt LaFleur, the head coach of the Packers, was not happy about the Packers going to London mid-season to play the New York Giants. It was something he was negative about. He had a really crappy energy toward. And ultimately, the Packers played like a bunch of dudes who didn't want to be there. Aaron Rodgers ends up breaking his thumb, and we know what happened the rest of the season, which was Rodgers' final season as the quarterback of the Packers. This year, and I think it helps that it's week 1. It's not, sandwiched into the middle of the season for a 10-and-a-half-hour flight to Brazil like it was for the Packers this week. But LaFleur has a much better attitude, saying, hey, it's an honor to be here. There's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It seems like the players, specifically on the Packers, are thrilled about the opportunity and grateful for the opportunity to play in Brazil, which is awesome. But it just seems like there was a better attitude, which will probably equate to a better product on the field than we saw a few years ago in London. So that part is a positive. But I think that when it comes to some of the logistics of this Brazil game, I think the NFL is viewing it as, hey, maybe we should have thought about this a little bit more. When it comes to some of the other concerns, the wildfires, the gang violence, everything else that goes on in Sao Paulo, it's being heavily criticized. And I don't know that that's fair, because I think what we're going to see tonight is a cool product and a really cool game and an amazing atmosphere in Sao Paulo. And that's been overshadowed a ton the last several weeks by some of the commentary around Brazil. So I think a lot of that will be dispelled tonight. I think we're going to see a really cool product, an awesome fan base, a really cool atmosphere for Packers Eagles, which is an awesome way to really kick off week 1 in the NFL following last night's game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk expectations for game 1 for the Green Bay Packers. Who's the X factor? What do you want to see coming in against the Eagles to open the season? Number 1 is the Packers get off to a fast start, but we'll talk more about that in just a second. First, got to tell you about my friends At Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. It's football season, which for me means that's whiskey season, whether it is the 27-time gold medal award-winning single malt whiskey, the rye whiskey, or my personal favorite, the bourbon, or maybe it's something else. Maybe you're feeling the vodka, cherry vodka with Door County cherries, or just that awesome blue bottle of vodka. Could be that classic green bottle of gin, or is it any of their great brandies to mix up in your old fashions? Whatever it is, choose Door County Distillery, locally produced, handcrafted, and award-winning spirits made locally in beautiful Door County. DoorCountyDistillery.com is the website. You can also scan the QR code on your screen to visit their huge list of unique cocktail recipes. Mix up something new. Mix up something great for the football season. Really kicking things off tonight out in Brazil. That's DoorCountyDistillery.com. We pause for 60 seconds. When we return, we take a look at expectations for game one for the Green Bay Packers. We take a look at underdog picks for tonight's game. Let's get a pick 'em entry in. We're going to knock that out. We're also going to wrap up the show as we always do with what we learned all ahead in 60 seconds. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Where in the world is Door County Distillery today? It brings me to Sugar River Pizza, the legendary in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Let's go to the bar. Let's see what they've got. We're here in the beautiful bar at Sugar River Pizza in Sun Prairie. My guy Kyle just mixed me up a cherry brandy old fashioned with the cherry brandy from Door County Distillery. It's delicious. I tell you it all the time. It's proving it right here. The best.
I'll tell you what, Kyle can make a cocktail.
All right, power ranking. Top 3 drinks to have from Door County Distillery. We're going 3-1. Number 3, it's a split decision, but they're both on the rocks. Either the 27-time gold medal award-winning single malt whiskey or my personal favorite, the bourbon. Right on the rocks. Nice Sunday night and the weekend. I love it. That's number 3. Number 2, the Cherry Cosmo with that green bottle of gin. That thing, it tastes like summer. It's unbelievable. It's delicious. You got to try it. Check out the recipe. DoorCountyDistillery.com. Number 1, it's in my left hand right now with the cherry brandy made with local Door County cherries. The cherry brandy old fashioned. That's my list, but there's no wrong answers. You got to find out for yourself. DoorCountyDistillery.com. Let me know what you think in the comments below. .com. It is game day. I can't get over that. I've got like layers of Packers stuff on right now. I saw Hunter was wearing his Micah Parsons jersey, which I got to be honest, Hunter, I didn't even know you had a Micah Parsons jersey. When did you acquire that? Is that new?
I got it when I went down to Dallas for that game against the Eagles. It was one of those, we were in the pro shop and I just looked at my wife and I'm like, I got to pull the trigger on this. Like, I've got all throwback stuff, like a bunch of Emmitt Smith ones, a Roger Staubach. I've got a Des Bryant
which will never
one.
go bad, which is a good call. But I don't think a Micah Parsons jersey will ever go bad either.
No, and that's why I was like, you know what? I got to do this because he's just one of those guys that even if he goes somewhere else, it'll be that random cool, like, oh, you've got a Cowboys Micah Parsons jersey. That's awesome. Like, so yeah, that's why I went with this one.
I like it. Real quick, so you mentioned the pro shop in Dallas. In terms of size, I assume you've been in the Packers pro shop in Green Bay. I've been there a lot this summer. I think I've been in there like 3 or 4 times this summer. It's huge in there. There's so much stuff in there. In terms of size, how does the Cowboys pro shop stack up to the Green Bay pro shop?
So the one in Cowboys Stadium is 2 levels.
Okay.
Yep, and it's like a line to go down the flight of stairs to like initially get in, and then they have their giant one at their practice facility up in Frisco. So that's about 45 minutes north of their stadium in Arlington, and that's where they've got restaurants. It's like their Titletown district. They just didn't have the room in Arlington to do that.
But the thing is, Hunter, that's like normal, right? Like most NFL teams don't practice across the street from their facility. What's happening in Green Bay is not normal. And sometimes I feel like as Packers fans, we lose sight of that, but continue.
Yeah, and then so the one that's in Frisco then is like, I'd probably say about the same size as the Packers Pro Shop one then, but it was still ginormous. Plus we went to they had not far from where we were staying, their like outlet store, and it's all of their old like team stuff that they're just like, oh, a Travis Frederick practice jersey. He hasn't been with the team for 5 years. Yeah, we've got that for sale. Yeah. So just like it's ridiculous how much Cowboy stuff there is actually in Dallas. Because
Clearly.
I see Packers stuff all the time up here, and you like get normalized to it, and then you go somewhere else, and you're like, oh yeah, they have team stores all over the place. The airport has 4 different ones. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, Jerry Jones monopolizing the Dallas Cowboys. Shocker.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
what do we expect in week 1 as the Packers take on the Eagles? I'm really nervous, and I don't know that nervous is the right word because I'm excited too. It's not a bad nervous. I'm not scared, but I am a little nervous. See exactly what the Jeff Hafley defense looks like. As we've acknowledged for the last few weeks, what we saw in the preseason from the Jeff Hafley defense was very vanilla. It was 3 plays on his call sheet. We didn't really see what the philosophy change was, what the schematic change. Like, we really didn't see that. So I'm really intrigued against a stacked offense, what Jeff Hafley throws at the Eagles. Could this be a game, because it's week 1, where the Eagles come out flat, but the Packers defense also comes out and punches them in the mouth and sets the tone early, and it's just Green Bay all game? Yeah, I do think that could happen. But could it be a game where it takes a bit to get things going defensively and it's more of a shootout? Yeah, I could also see that. I think the Packers offense is going to look sharp. That I do believe firmly. I really think the only concern for the Packers offensively is that right guard spot, which it views like Sean Ryan will get the start tonight at right guard for the Packers. First-round pick Jordan Morgan will likely be his backup. There was rumors they could go platoon style, so maybe Ryan for 2 drives and then Morgan for a drive and then back to Ryan for 2 drives. I don't think we're going to see that tonight. I think they're going to Ryan the whole game and create some continuity on that offensive line, because the other 4 positions, who's playing there, right? From left to right, it's Walker, Jenkins, Myers at center, and then right tackle will be Zach Tom. So you have continuity with those 4 positions, but I think tonight will be an opportunity to create continuity across all 5. So I would guess we see Sean Ryan. Tucker Kraft is questionable tonight for the Packers on their official injury report. So we may only see Luke Musgrave and Ben Sims at the tight end position, which some good opportunity for Luke Musgrave if there is no Tucker Kraft here in the opener in week number 1. Otherwise, the Packers are healthy, right? Marshawn Lloyd is questionable, but I don't know, and Emmanuel Wilson is as well. So I don't know how much of an impact those guys will make. This could be just the Josh Jacobs show, but he's a workhorse. That's a guy you attach your wagon to and say, "Go ahead, man, go for it." And in week 1, I would love to see a heavy dosage of Josh Jacobs. But the MVP campaign begins tonight for Jordan Love, and I don't think he takes that lightly. He realizes the contract he got in the offseason. He realizes the weapons he has around them, and he understands the way they elevated him, but he also elevated them in the back half of last season. So I think the Packers are going to attack heavily through the air, and I think Josh Jacobs will also be involved in that. A stat I brought up a few months ago that has kind of been lost in the shuffle here it's in week 1 excitement is Josh Jacobs is 6 receptions away from becoming the pass catcher in NFL history with the most catches never scoring a touchdown. Josh Jacobs has never scored a receiving touchdown in the regular season. He is 6 catches away from breaking the NFL record for most receptions without a touchdown. So Jordan Love probably looking to break that possibility early with a passing touchdown to Josh Jacobs. I think this Packers offense is going to sling it. I think they're going to hold no remorse and hold nothing back, pull no punches here in week 1. That's something they did a lot of in the first half of last season, was pull punches and shortening the playbook. I don't anticipate that tonight against Philadelphia. This is year 2 under Love. This is year 2 of a lot of these skill position guys. There's no reason to hold back for Matt LaFleur. LaFleur is back to, he took 1 year off from this, but he is back to expecting to win 12 games. Expecting to win 13 games, to be one of, if not the best team in the NFC, and to compete for a Super Bowl. That's how LaFleur's tenure in Green Bay started. That's how it continued with MVP Aaron Rodgers. 1 year where they go, this is a rebuild. They win a playoff game in that year. That was last year. And now this year, the target is right back on their back. So I think this offense is going to come out and slinging it and be slinging it and be doing some really creative, fun stuff with guys like Jaden Reed and Dontavian Wicks. And defensively, I just really don't know what to expect. It could take a minute for things to get going, or it could be all of a sudden quickly the Packers defense is punching the Eagles offense in the mouth. Frankly, I believe the Packers are going to win tonight. I think this is going to be a set the tone win for what the 2024 season looks like. I think it is close. I think it is similarly to last night. It comes down to one position and likely the final drive. But I think the Packers do walk away with a win tonight. I think this offense just was humming too well at the end of last season, and clearly it continued into the preseason with them only playing 3 snaps and scoring a big touchdown. So I think the Packers' offense comes in and punches the Eagles in the mouth. But don't forget the Eagles' offense is not only very good, is not only very dangerous, but upgraded this offseason with the addition of Saquon Barkley. They have offensively. And I think this could be shootout-ish. I don't think we're going to be scoring in the 30s and the 40s, but it could be similarly to last night, a 27-20 or a 27-24 type game between the Packers and the Eagles. I think we're going to get points. The over-under is 49.5, and we're going to see these offenses cook a little bit. And that's exciting because that's what we've been waiting all offseason to see. Hunter, who do you like, Packers or Eagles tonight in the season opener?
I mean, I don't like either of them. Like I said, I wish that this game would end in a tie. But I think it's going to be like 24-21 Packers. I know I said earlier that a team's going to pull away, but like to go on record and say, oh yeah, the Packers are going to win by 2 touchdowns or something just feels too ridiculous. So I'm kind of hedging my bet saying that it's going to be a tighter game, even though this could get out of hand at the end, but more than likely it is going to be a close game. Like, there's just both of these offenses are so good and so talented. Like, I just keep thinking about for the Packers defense, like, how do you handle A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith? Like, handling one of those guys is fine, but both of them is going to be tough. Jair can only cover one receiver.
Real quick, yeah, you're right? Jair will likely be matched up with A.J. Brown. That's something he always asked for with Joe Barry and didn't always receive. Jeff Hafley is a player's coach. That's very evident through his first 6 or so months in his tenure as the Packers defensive coordinator. I would imagine, Hunter, Jair is going to shadow Brown for most of the game, which leaves Eric Stokes on Devontae Smith. And I don't know how confident that makes everybody, because Eric Stokes is a guy who I think if we did a list of the Packers with most to prove in 2024, Eric Stokes is probably in the top 5. I think Christian Watson's in the top 5, but Eric Stokes joins him in the top 5 with the most to prove in 2024. So, and he's high on that list. So this is obviously a really good matchup, right? Some of the teams you face in 2024 aren't going to have a great second option as a receiving threat. Now, in the NFC North, you see a lot of really good second options as receiving threats. Jordan Addison, probably Keenan Allen would be technically the 2 in Chicago, and a guy like Jamison Williams in Detroit. Like, you've got good second options. So Eric Stokes is going to see a lot of good receivers this year, and that starts here tonight in week number 1 against Devontae Smith.
And something that could happen tonight because of the way that the Eagles collapsed last year and turned into an absolute soap opera within their locker room is if Eric Stokes makes some plays early to shut down Devontae Smith and it like starts to cause some frustration for that offense, things could all of a sudden collapse on Philly, because I don't think they've fully figured out what their issues were last year. And if things start to get dramatic on the sideline and they start bickering and getting after each other, all of a sudden the Packers can jump on that, and then that's where this game could get out of hand for Green Bay. Because of all of that drama that Philly's had, if they haven't figured that out, it's a weird thing to like go into week 1 thinking, but I don't trust that team with Nick Sirianni to like have all of that on lock, and it could get out of hand for them if they don't have everything in check and their emotions handled with the way they've been approaching this game, and all of a sudden they get frustrated and mad and they're more focused on winning arguments on the sideline instead of taking care of what needs to happen on the field. Again, I want to preface that also with I am biased and I hate the Eagles more than any other sports franchise in the world, so I might be seeing this through some Cowboys colored glasses, but I hate the Eagles. Cry, Eagles, cry.
There you go. There's Hunter Vaughn with this selection and analysis on tonight's game. All right, I want to turn your attention over to Underdog, underdogfantasy.com. Let's make a pick'em selection ahead of tonight's game on Underdog. You can use promo code Good Karma. Get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick on the Underdog app when you use promo code Good Karma at sign up. Join me. Play along with me all football season long. We are looking specifically and only at tonight's game between the Packers and the Eagles. Now, in Underdog, you do have to make a selection from two separate teams. So I will have to make an Eagles pick and a Packers pick, but we'll start with the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, who I believe will throw under 32.5 passing attempts. I do not think he will throw the ball 33 or more times. So I will pick a lower on 32.5 passing attempts. J-Love, 1.5 passing touchdowns, higher or lower. It is really intriguing to me, but I think the easy pick for Jordan Love is higher than 7.5 rushing yards. I feel like he's just going to have, more than a rush over that. Let's go down to some of these skill position players. Who do we think will touchdown score? And one of my favorite things on the Underdog app is you can actually predict the first TD scorer. And that is a scorcher, so you can super elevate, your payout on the pick'em entry that you submit. Do we think it will be maybe Josh Jacobs as the first TD scorer? I don't know if I'm sold on that. I'm trying to think who I really like in that spot, Hunter. I think it could be Jacobs, or it could be maybe a Jaden Reed. Those are the two that are in my head as the first TD scorer tonight in Eagles Packers. I think the Packers will score first.
Yeah, as you were scrolling down, as soon as I saw Jaden Reed, I was like, ooh, that might be the pick. Like,
let's do it. Let's
yeah, I like that one.
Let's do Jaden Reed as the first TD scorer, higher, obviously, at 5.41 times scorcher. So our entry right now, Jalen Hurts lower than 32.5 passing attempts, Jordan Love higher than 7.5 rushing yards, and Jaden Reed, the first TD scorer. I am going to let's throw $20 on that. And that would give you a payout, if all three are correct, of $649.
Nice.
With a $20 entry on the Underdog app. It is placed. We're playing for $650 tonight on the Underdog app. Promo code Good Karma, available in over 30 states. Use promo code Good Karma at sign up. You get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick on the Underdog app. Let's win some money this football season. Promo code Good Karma, GOODKARMA, all one word at sign up on the Underdog app. $1,000 in free cash and a free pick on the Underdog app. All right, time to wrap up the show with what we learned. You learn something new every day. We learned something new today. We got a few minutes left in Mr. Irrelevant, presented by Door County Distillery and Underdog. Hunter, what'd you learn?
I've learned that I need to be still paying attention to the Brewers, even though it is football season now. The Cubs, all of a sudden, only 9 games back, and I know the Brewers' magic number, it's like at 12 or 13 right now, but I'm always a nervous Brewers fan when it gets to August and September, and I need to keep paying attention to them because I don't want this to suddenly turn into they have a 3-game lead with 4 games left in the season, and they, are running out their 3, 4, 5 pitchers to end the season. So got to keep paying attention to the Brewers. They're still in a fight to win the NL Central and still in the battle to try and get that first-round bye and get home field.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We are in the fun stretch of baseball season, which is a tough time for football season to start, especially when you're cheering for a first place team, like the Brewers are. Man, they have been really entertaining this year. Hunter and I have talked a ton about them here on Mr. Irrelevant, and yeah, you got to keep one eye open on the Brewers. I'm not going to today, but rest of the weekend I will have an eye on the Brewers because it is all about the green and gold for me today. But they are still in a fun race, man. They could still get the 1 seed. I don't think there's any chance they blow this division lead, but the Cubs have been playing better, and that could be a wild card team. And if the Brewers are in the wild card, you can spell out the rest. We could see Craig Counsell and the Cubs versus the Brewers in the wild card round, which I welcome, might I add. I welcome that matchup if it comes to that. What I learned is even if things are going right, you still might get a bad look. The Kansas City Chiefs winning in the opener last night over the Baltimore Ravens. But ironically, on the day of the season opener, the sentencing slammed down for superfan Chiefsaholic, who was sentenced for multiple armed robberies. If you don't know this story, just search Chiefsaholic Google. It is a man who dressed up as a wolf and was a mega Chiefs fan, showed up to every game for years and years in a full-blown wolf costume, like furry style, with a Chiefs jersey on. And he entered a plea deal back in February where he admitted to doing more than 11 robberies and profiting over $800,000. And he has been sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison. So despite when things are going good, you might still get a weird look, just like the Kansas City Chiefs might be getting a weird look for essentially their biggest super fan going to prison for 17 and a half years. Wild
that's why
story.
He got replaced by Taylor Swift. So they just upped
Yeah,
it to
that's a good
a
point.
bunch bigger super fan.
Yeah, that's a really good point by you, actually. Yeah, Taylor Swift, a little bit bigger of a deal than Chiefsaholic, who's going to prison for 17 and a half years. We are back with you Monday, beginning at 12:30. We will break down everything from week 1 of the NFL season, including the Green Bay Packers game here on Friday night. But would like to remind you, if you are new to Mr. Relevant or you're new to knowing who I am, I'm Alex Strouf, Hunter Vaughn with me. I want to remind you that during the football season, I have the coolest opportunity professionally that I've ever had, right? It's something I do not take for granted. I just enjoy the hell out of, and that is doing our pregame coverage on Green Bay Game Day on ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison, and the biggest stick in the state, the most legendary radio station in the state of Wisconsin, 620 WTMJ. Before every Packers game, I have the opportunity to be our host on Green Bay Game Day. Tonight, it just came out. I can actually announce it tonight. Our cast of characters tonight on the first Green Bay Game Day, which begins at 4 o'clock on 94.5 ESPN Milwaukee only. There's a volleyball game and a Brewers game. So we are not on ESPN Madison and ESPN or 620 WTMJ, but we will be on YouTube at ESPN Milwaukee, at ESPN Madison. Joining me tonight, you hear him on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy weekday mornings from 7 to 9. Gabe Neitzel will join me tonight. You saw him win a Super Bowl for the Green Bay Packers back in Super Bowl 45. He was the youngest player to start in a Super Bowl. The Packers' first-round pick in 2010, Brian Bulaga, will join me all 3 hours tonight on Green Bay Game Day. You've watched him on SportsCenter your entire life. At least I have. Also the pride of Green Bay. He can share that title with me. John Anderson from ESPN will join us all 3 hours tonight. Gabe Neitzel, Brian Bulaga, John Anderson, and myself with you beginning at 4 o'clock Central on Green Bay Game Day. Rob Demovsky will stop by. Will stop by, and we will lead you right up to kickoff between the Packers and the Eagles on Peacock at 7:15. 4 to 7:15 tonight. It is Green Bay Game Day on ESPN Wisconsin. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to our cast of characters this season on that show. And really, it's a really cool opportunity for me. So if you are getting ready for the game tonight, please join us on ESPN Milwaukee. It is Green Bay Game Day beginning at 4 o'clock Central Time and 2 o'clock for you, those of you on the West Coast, 5 o'clock Eastern for those of you on the East Coast. That will do it for us today. Back with you Monday at 12:30 here on Mr. Relevant, presented by Door County Distillery and Underdog Fantasy. Make some money on Underdog this weekend. Enjoy the football. Drink, eat your hearts away. We'll talk to you on Monday. It's Mr. Relevant. I'm Alex Strouf. Peace.